banking scene just got a digital jolt, and ZA Bank was out front. The city's first branchless bank helped write a playbook with regulators and proved that you could build trust through a screen. Up next, we have General Counsel Chloe Zong on setting precedents, squaring mainland innovation with Hong Kong law, and the legal edge a virtual bank needs to win. ZA Bank made history as Hong Kong's first virtual bank to launch. Walk us through that journey. Were you essentially creating precedents as General Counsel of ZA Bank with regulators who are also essentially figuring this out for the first time?
Laws and regulations are frequently changing in the digital financial services space, especially because of imagine when there are new technologies, new initiatives, therefore new laws have to be passed. So there may be no precedent or case law to guide the application or interpretation of the laws. That's why this necessitates our continuous communications with the regulators to ascertain their regulatory expectations, understand their policy consideration, and seek expert advice on the legality and the compliance of the product, services, and processes in order to ensure legal compliance.
ZA Bank being a virtual bank, it's relatively new in the world of banking. Being a virtual bank means you're operating without physical branches, and that's happening in the market in Hong Kong here, where traditional banking has been very relationship-driven. Are the compliance requirements actually stricter because you don't have a physical presence?
As a digital bank, we are subject to the same legal and regulatory requirements, including the aspects of customer onboarding, KYC, AML, as other banks, whether they are digital or traditional banks. However, as we operate without physical branch, i.e. we offer product and services via our bank app, we need to translate the legal and regulatory obligations into our product, services, and the online processes. For example, how KYC AML requirements are embedded in onboarding process conducted via our bank app. To give you an example, facial recognition is one of the means of authentication. Or another example is how we deploy AI for transaction monitoring and management mechanism. Of course, with predefined human intervention mechanism when necessary. And also how we ensure adequate consumer protection in a paperless environment. For example, creating a legally binding contract with customer online, protection of customer data, especially from cybersecurity risks, in accordance with the legal and regulatory standards set by the authorities and the regulators.
Now we know that the parent company of ZA Bank is the ZhongAn. It brings mainland fintech expertise, but ZA Bank essentially operates under the Hong Kong's regulatory regime. How are you managing potential conflict?
I would say we operate separately, like as in we operate under the Hong Kong regulatory regime, and because we do not target local residents in other jurisdictions, we have been conducting risk assessment on our product, services, or processes from Hong Kong legal and regulatory perspective only. However, because the digital financial services bring increased mobility to customers, for example, assisting customer access the bank app for our product or services or manage their finances while traveling across the globe. So which makes the provision of the digital financial services more complex, as we need to ensure compliance with the varying legal and regulatory requirements across multiple jurisdictions. I will say that we have not encountered any conflicts between the different regulatory philosophies so far.
Now, as General Counsel, looking at your own legal team and the structure of it, what kind of specialized skills have you had to build or look for, acquired, that a traditional bank legal department might not need?
Skills specific to a lawyer in a digital bank would include, like, first of all, the lawyer need to understand the fintech business models, such as e-wallets, the virtual accounts, virtual cards, APIs, and And on top of that, the lawyers must be able to work closely with the product, tech and data teams. Also are able to provide a real-time agile legal input during the product development instead of after the product development, and able to translate, like I just mentioned, able to translate the legal obligations into product features such as how KYC AML requirements translate into onboarding flows. Lawyer in a digital bank must be able to advise on novel or untested legal issues, which often fall in a regulatory gray zone, and must be able to advise on the new products, services, processes with innovative legal solutions. For example, I remember when we were discussing on this, how we should structure the product with our business team, and then when we have no precedent or existing business activities that we could make reference to in the market. So what we did was we just we studied the relevant ordinance, understand the legal obligations, and then we propose how we should structure the product to our business. Another example would be certain ordinance may not support our online process, such as the electronic transaction ordinance does not support the online execution of certain documents, and then we need to advise accordingly under the ordinance, and yet enable the provision of such products without, at the same time complying with the existing laws. That's the challenge. So in summary, in the digital bank, we are closer to the business, faster paced, and expected to be tech savvy and commercially nimble. And given fintech companies often have limited resources, a lawyer in a digital bank often must be proficient in many areas of law and ready to tackle new tasks every day.